Triple E EDC back again with another knife video. This is a continuation of the Knife Noob series. It's a series of videos that I do that was originally intended to be for beginners in the knife world. I've since expanded it to topics that even, seasoned veterans of the knife game want to know about, and just they're the questions that you always wanted to know the answers to, but either you're afraid to ask or you're too new to ask. And so today we're talking about Attack of the Clones, not the Star Wars version, but this is Attack of Clone Knives. So, as many of you know, cheap knockoffs of knives, you've all seen Louis Vuitton bags and the knockoffs that people have for Louis Vuitton bags and all sorts of other knockoffs of designer clothing. So the same is true in the knife world. There are a lot of knockoffs for knives, especially expensive knives like Reeve, and even mass-produced knives like Benchmade's. So the 940, the Bugout, and the Reeve Sebenza. Well, this is the Inkosi, but the Sebenza has seen a lot of knockoffs. This is the Damascus version. I think most of the knockoffs are the original version, not the Damascus. But they're always coming out with new knockoffs on the market. Now these knives, the knives you've seen so far, are all real. They're the real versions. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what to look out for when purchasing a knife in order to make sure that you're not getting a clone, or at least do everything you can in your power to make sure you're not going to get cloned. So first things first, the best thing you can do is be safe on who you're dealing with. So, if you're going on Wish and you're seeing a knife for 30 bucks or 20 bucks, and it's a Benchmade or it's a Reeve or something, you have to assume that that's a fake. I mean, it is. And that goes for pretty much any of these sites where you're getting a deal that's too good to be true. If your deal is too good to be true, it probably is. So just be aware of that. This also goes for the secondary market. If on the secondary market you see a deal that is too good to be true, there's a possibility that it is. So on the secondary market, I really recommend using, using established people. On Facebook, they have the vouch system. Reddit also has the vouch system on the knife swap. So Blade Forums, I think, also has vouches. So a lot of these vouch systems exist to make sure that people earn credibility in trading, so that they are able, or trading, buying, selling, so that they're able to deal in real knives, and people are able to get real knives from them without having to worry about clones. So if you're buying from someone unestablished, just be aware there's a higher risk involved. If you're buying from someone established, that does not mean that there's no risk. They could unwittingly pass over a knife that they didn't know was fake. So it is important to know what to look out for. One of the things, by the way, when you're just purchasing knives in general, anytime you see a ruler, next to a knife like Wish does, a lot of those are the knockoffs. Be a little wary. A lot of people selling knives that are real don't really put a ruler in front of them. But I'm going to digress for a moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at some actual fakes to get in here. I want to thank one of my viewers. I don't know if he wants me to name him because of the fact that, these are clones involved. He was unfortunately duped by a couple of clones and actually sent them in order to help everyone going forward with some what to look out for and how not to get duped. So just give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of these knives. Okay, so first of all, we've got a couple of Benchmades, and what's important here is that you're looking at clones, not just the knives, but the boxes. Sorry, one more knife you gotta grab here. You're not just looking at the knives, you're looking at the boxes. So when you're looking at the boxes, one thing to look out for, and you're gonna wanna ask people if they have the boxes, is just the shading. So this is a fake box. This is the 940-1. And this is a real box. This is the 940-2001. That's the Smoky Mountain Knife Works version that you saw earlier. So one of the things to look out for, I don't know if you can tell in this photo, but the blue on here, so on a Benchmade box, the blue has black shaded into it. See all that black shaded into it? It also shades over into the white. It's part of their logo. It's how they do things. Here, right? So it's not really shaded in black. You see how it's off? Like it's part of they have the same lines, but it's different shades of blue, and then there's some black in the white here. You know, so that's one of the differences that you can see right off the bat. In person, you'll also see that this is shinier. It's not coming through as well on the camera, but it is shinier. You can also see that sometimes the logos are different sizes, but the stickers actually look pretty similar. I don't know if you can, let me go ahead and turn them around here. This is the fake one. This is the real one. And so some of the things you might be able to notice here, and I know these are upside down for you guys that are watching, but you know, you always want to double check the steel, make sure the steel's correct, double check the manual open, you know, is it a manual or is it an auto, double check the model number, make sure the model number is matching, double check the spellings of everything, because a lot of times spellings are bad on clone knives. But this box is actually a pretty decent clone box. Again, this is the real one. One of the things to note here is that you see here it says everyday, and here it says outdoor, and here it says everyday, and here it says outdoor. So those can be indicators that, you know, that these are the right boxes. But just so you know, let me see if I have this over here. This is, I'm sorry, this wasn't the DLC one. This was this one, the titanium one. I apologize, I got the model numbers wrong. But this is the DLC one. This one right here. And so both these boxes are real Benchmade boxes. These ones right here. And you can see right here, this says every day. It does not say outdoor. This says every day, it says outdoor. This says every day, it says outdoor, right? So just because it says every day and outdoor doesn't mean that, you know, I've seen them differ on different boxes, is the point. One of the other things to note is, you know, this is a real Bugout box. It says everyday and tactical. Did you think that the GRY Bugout was tactical? You can't always tell from these badges. The point is, pay attention to the steel, pay attention to the opening, pay attention to the model number, pay attention to the spellings of everything. But these two logos, you can't always trust on the real boxes versus the fake boxes. Something else to note, this is another fake box. This is a fake Bugout box. So you can see the colors are different on this. So you always pay attention to the color. Again, here is the real box, and a real box, and a fake box, and a fake, real, right? So you can see the color on this one is bad. So not always is the color going to be good on these. So keep that in mind when you are when you're looking. Another thing to keep in mind is always pay attention, like I said, to the model numbers. So let's go ahead and take a look at this Bugout, and you'll see why you should pay attention to the model number. So first of all, look at the cutout. This is another indication you've got the wrong box. Benchmade does not use cutouts like this, right? But Benchmade uses this type of foam on the inside. You'll get the axis and the axis sticker, the warranty information, and this little pouch. That comes with pretty much every Benchmade knife. So if it's a real one, it should have that. If it's a fake one, you might get this weird foam inside. But this one right here, if you look at it, looks pretty much like a Bugout. This is a plain edge, but the model number here is 535S. So the S is for serrated. So right there, right off the bat, that should have been an indicator to you that this knife is a fake, because it does not match the box. The S should be serrated. So that's clue number one. Clue number two is this is really shiny. Now, you may not be able to see it in person, but when you see a shiny scale like this, if you look at pictures, and that, by the way, this is a great tip for when you buy a knife. When you see somebody take pictures of a knife, always compare it to pictures from a retailer to make sure that the knife that you're looking at matches up. So when it comes to this knife, for example, so the scales here are shiny. They're a little bit shiny. You see they sort of reflect light a little bit. So the real scales are plastic, and they're matte, and they don't reflect light. And so when you look at them, you want to make sure that you see that they don't reflect light, and that makes sense. So again, that's something to look out for as well. Another thing to look out for is the logos. So the logos on Benchmade, so there's not much of a difference on this one, but oftentimes the logos will have one of two things wrong with it. So Benchmade always puts the model number inside the logo. I don't know if you can see there. But the model number I think is a little bit hard to read, whereas in here, model number is very easy to read. And you also see that USA there, USA 535. So here, see that USA and very, very hard to read. Also the E blends in with the logo, the E in Benchmade, BE, is blending in with the logo. Now this is a lot closer than I think a lot of people look at knives, but just think to yourself, you know, what goes into a knife and what, you know, what are the details that matter? What are the details that make it correct? Now I mentioned before about the scales being a little bit shiny. These are actually metallic scales. I don't know if they're aluminum. I can't tell, you know, if they are actually aluminum, but the Bugout does not have aluminum scales. As a result, this is actually much heavier than a normal Bugout. So one of the things you can do if someone's buying it, have them, you know, put the knife on a scale if they have one handy, have them write a, you know, a name and date, you know, next to the knife on a piece of paper so that you can see that they actually do have the knife. That's less of a fake issue and more of a scam issue. But you know, these are all things that you can do to protect yourself. Another thing to keep in mind is the markings. The markings should all be on the same place on the knives. So you see the steel listed as 30V. Look at the distance between the steel on the real one versus the fake one, between the thumb stud and S30V. Very little distance and a lot of distance. Also the font. You know, the fonts on fakes often don't match the fonts on the original. So again, the S30V here is a different font, S30V here is a different font. Different distance, different distance. So pay attention to those little details that really come in handy as you go through. Another thing to keep in mind is the clips. So and the holes that are drilled for clips. So if you look here, right, Benchmade drills their clips. It appears that the clips here, the holes for the clips, are too far apart. Now, I haven't measured them, but they do look like they're a little far apart. I don't have one of the original scales here to compare, but just make sure that those types of things are matching up as far as the holes on the clip. Those are more things that you can match up. The how well defined, you know, the patterns are in the scales also matters. So if you see that these are too well defined or not well defined enough, you may be dealing with a fake. Pay attention to the pocket clips and any logos that are on the pocket clips. This pocket clip does not have a logo on it, but if it did have a logo on it and it was a different font or it didn't match up slightly or the logo placement was in the wrong spot, those are all indicators of a possible fake. Also, double check to see that the hardware matches up at the colors of the real hardware. So the blue on the thumb studs here is off. You can see it's a very bad blue, right? So the real one, I don't have a blue Bugout here, but the real one is a very bright blue, right? So look, that's where you look at those stock photos from the retailers. If you had seen the stock photos from the retailers, you could tell right away those thumb studs are too dark. Also, the color of the hardware in here, as far as you know, DLC or satin, sometimes they'll put DLC hardware where satin hardware should be, and vice versa. Also, you'll double check, make sure the pivots are correct. This one, you know, I think is the same pivot pretty much that's used in a Bugout, but many times the pivot will be different from the fake to the original. Double check the hardware. So these are all things that you can do to protect yourself. Like I said, this you know, this one is not really a good. It's not even a good fake, really, but it does work in pictures to fool people if you're not looking closely. Another thing you can do is a Benchmade that's tuned correctly should do this, right? Benchmade should do this. So have the person who's selling you the knife pull it back. If it's not, have them loosen the pivot a little bit. And if it creates way too much play and doesn't drop freely, you have one of two problems. Either it's a fake or it's a poorly constructed knife. Either way, you shouldn't buy. All right, so that's that one. That's the bug out. Again, just to recap, a couple of the things that were wrong with this bug out. Sorry. A couple of things that were wrong with this bug out were the scales are wrong, the hardware on the thumb studs are wrong, the spacing on the steel is wrong, the font on the steel is wrong, the scales are wrong. They're aluminum when they should be plastic. It's much brighter on the color anyway on the scales, whereas a plastic is matte and dull. So these are all things that you should be looking out for, as well as the fact that the box itself is the wrong color and it has the 535S, even though this is supposed to be a regular 535. Also, the logo, again, had a couple of issues with it that we mentioned as well. All right, let's go ahead and move this one out of the way, and let's talk about the next knife. So this one's actually a pretty good fake for the most part. This is a fake 940-1, and the box, like we saw, is pretty good with the same color, but again, didn't have exactly the black that matching lines like it should have. The information here is right. It is a 940-1. It is CPM S90V. Everyday carry and outdoor is one of the correct options on these boxes, although I've seen some different things. The foam on the inside is correct for the bottom. It looks like somebody removed out the foam inside around here, but it's possible that could have been in there. There is a Benchmade Life Sharp warranty here, so that is something that you'll see there. And you also have a couple of Benchmade silk baggies here as well. Not silk, but microfiber baggies that were included as well. Let's go ahead and compare that to real one. So the real one looks about the same, but is larger. See, the logo is a little bit larger. I think the logo is a little bit larger on that. Also, the real one has, it feels like microfiber. This feels more like cotton, although you wouldn't see that on a video or a picture. Like I said, this is a much better fake. So this is 940-1 clone. It does have the correct blue anodization. The blue is for the 940-1. The green is for the 940-2. There's a couple different versions, like the smoky backspacers on that one, but the blue is the correct one for this configuration. The milling on the carbon fiber is, for the most part, correct. The spacing on the clip is correct. The clip that's attached, I cannot remember, but, and by the way, a lot of Benchmade clips are interchangeable, so that's not always the most reliable indicator, but, and I think that these were the original clips on these 940-1s, but over time they, I think, came to include the deep carry clips, or at least a lot of people removed them and replaced them with the deep carry clips. This one has, for the most part, the action that you would expect from a non-broken in 940. For the most part, this is a pretty good fake here. Now, it's got the Osborne design, it's got the patent number. You may want to check the patent number as one of the things, one of the ways to defend against a possible fake. One of the things just to be aware of is that the S90V blade is stonewashed on the real 940. So I believe, if I remember correctly, and if I can find it here, what I do with it. Here we go. So I believe it's the same one as this one, the stonewashed blade on the 940-2001. I believe that same color blade is on without these thumb studs, has regular thumb studs. But I believe that same color same color blade is on the 940-1. You guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But that's something to look out for, as well as the correct finish on the blades, that in addition to the correct steel markings and everything else. One of the things to be aware of, though, is, and let's look at that marking here. This is one of the big differences. So you see the font of that S90V? This is where you know it's a fake. The font on that S90V is not Benchmade's font. You saw Benchmade's font on this one. They use pretty much the same font on all their knives. That S30V, it's a little bit bold. It has that that sort of tilt to it, right? This one is just a straight up and down text, you know, maybe Times New Roman or something. Just a very, very straight up and down text. This one, this is a real one. You can see it has that tilted S90V. It's a little harder to see on this blade, but it has that tilted S90V that you can see on there. So I have to say, overall, this is a pretty good fake. It's very hard to tell that it is a fake, but the giveaway is the steel right here. Okay, let's go ahead and put that one away, because I think that is really the only way you're going to be able to tell that one's fake for most people. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next knife here, which is a supposed Chris Reeve. So let's go ahead and take a look. Comes with a lanyard, comes with think twice, cut once, right? Comes with your supposed Sebenza there. Comes with your Chris Reeve guarantee on what feels to be some sort of magazine cover grade paper. And Chris Reeve knives, a little bit of Sebenza and Menandi integral lock information. And then on the back of this one is your birth card, right? So these are all like the authenticity papers, the papers to prove authenticity. So a couple of things right off the bat with this. These are not the right papers. Now, one thing to note is this says it's 2013. Chris Reeve may have changed its paper since then. So when you're dealing with older knives, you can't always, you know, go off the newer information. But pretty sure this is not a Chris Reeve, and I'll show you guys why in a few minutes. But the normal Chris Reeve comes in a box like this, comes in a nice presentation like this, comes with all these different things, comes with stickers, and even if you don't have the stickers, the cards here are card stock, much nicer card stock. They come with this blue guarantee on the back. I think the older ones may have been white, but they come with the cloth. They come with the tool and the grease. A lot different than this, right? Now, let's go ahead and talk about why these are not legitimate. Why this is not a legitimate Sebenza. By the way, this I said Sebenza, but this is supposed to be the Sebenza 25, which was the precursor to the Inkosi. So the first things first is, you know, whenever you see something like this, the Sebenza 25, this is a discontinued knife. So when you have a birth card like this, the first thing you want to do is go and double check a couple of things. One, what was the Rockwell hardness they actually hardened it to back then? Double check the steel. In Chris Reeve's case, S35VN is really for almost all of their knives, it's going to be the steel, except for the very early years. You're going to look at 2013, so you're going to say, okay, was the Sebenza 25 around in 2013? You do your research. I don't know offhand whether it was. I know that it was discontinued, I think, in like 2018, 2019 in favor of the Inkosi. But this is the supposed 25. Let's go ahead and take a look at a real Inkosi over here. Here we go. This is a real Inkosi. And so there's a couple of things you can see right off the bat with this that you don't really need a lot to notice. And let's go ahead and look at the Sebenza. So this is the lanyard hole, the lanyard that comes on most of these knives. Most Chris Reeves knives have this same lanyard. This lanyard is important. You see this loop on the end? This loop on the end is not how these knives come. Someone tried to tie a knot to make it look like this. So you want to see that these two strands on the real ones come separated. On the fake, you had the loop here that was not separated. So that's an indicator right there. Another indicator, actually let's look away from the knife for a second, but this is another indicator, is the leather pouch. So the real leather pouch is darker. It is it's very glossy. As you can see, the stitching on it is pretty good. It's got sort of that cracked cracked leather look to it. This one, as you can see, has a pebbled look to it, almost. It has no gloss to it. It is very wide. It's about the same size, actually, but it's a little bit longer than this one. But it's not quite the same. Another thing to note is that logos are different sizes, although that could have changed over time. And think twice, cut once. So, but these logos are different sizes. All right, now looking at the knives themselves, a couple of things to note. Again with the steel. Chris Reeve does not mark the steel. They use S35VN on pretty much every knife they make, except for maybe some of the fixed blades, which may be in 3V. But they make S35 on pretty much every knife they make, and they don't put any billboarding on the knife. So S35VN here is a mistake. Now you may be looking at the thumb studs and saying to yourself, well, those thumb studs are satin, and these are blue anodized. There are blue anodized Sebenza thumb studs, but you want to make sure that they're on the correct model. I know they made them for the Sebenza 21. I'm not sure they made them for the Sebenza 25, although I assume they did. But these are the types of things you want to double check. You also want to double check, the grinds. So you can tell this is a hollow grind here, and the real Inkosi is a hollow grind as well. But if you see a flat grind on a knife, then you probably know it's a fake. So look out for the grinds as well. Sometimes the grinds are giveaways. Look at the hardware on here in the back. So you can see the hardware on the real one, which is this one. Has sort of a flared sort of bell-bottom look to it, whereas this one looks a lot more like a Endura, where it's a boxy cylinder type of look. The Enduras look more like this. So that looks more like that. So another way to look for it is the hardware on the top. Get more, when you're asking people for photos, get photos of every angle of the knife, and you need it for this reason. Another thing to keep in mind is now, on the Inkosi, these are canted. The clips are canted. On the Sebenza 25, I believe it is accurate to have them over the lock bar like this. But again, clip placement may be something that might be a giveaway, and is something you should pay attention to. Pay attention, the pivots are the same size, and the hardware is the same tool. Make sure if it's supposed to be a Torx bit, it's a Torx bit, and so on and so forth. If it's a hex bit, it's supposed to be a hex bit, again, and so on and so forth. So looking at this, you can see that this one is clearly a hex for an Allen wrench, which is what is included for in the packaging for Chris Reeve. But inside this one, well, believe this one's a Torx. It's hard to tell, but I believe that one's a Torx. So make sure that the hardware is correct. Yeah, you see the Torx bits over here. So those are Torx bits or star bits, but they are not hex bits like these. Whoops, hit the camera there. So again, those are some more things to look out for. And overall, I mean, these are decent fakes, but just be aware of these things. Also, Chris Reeve is known for impeccable fit and finish. If you see things are off, like the way these scales are lined up, you know, it feels off here, and I guess it looks slightly off. If it looks slightly off on a Chris Reeve, it's probably an issue. You know, you can see some of that fit is not the best. So on a Chris Reeve, you should expect the best, and if you don't, there may be an issue. Okay, another thing that you may look out for, and I don't think it was on these knives, but some knives have a lock bar stabilizer on the lock bar, and so if it's supposed to have a lock bar stabilizer and it doesn't, that also is a potential giveaway for a fake. All right, moving on to the next one. This is a fake Shirogorov, and this is supposed to be an F3. I had a prior F3 on the video, and I don't have it anymore, so I'm going to break out the F95, which is similar to the F3, except it has flat handles instead of the rounded contour handles. It's basically the same knife. So one of the things you see off the bat is the fake F3 is it's smaller. So it's smaller. It has, you know, this jimping here, which doesn't necessarily have on the real F3. I don't believe it had that. I believe it had a full flat grind. Here, where I was talking about the grinds are different. Can't talk anymore. The grinds are different. The grind on this one is it's a high saber grind. As you can see, there's a flat right here, whereas on the F95 and the F3, it's a full flat grind. And it's also a thin full flat grind. So a couple of things of note there. The pocket clip is not the right pocket clip for an F3. The F3 does have, I believe, the same pocket clip, if I recall correctly. So the pocket clip is another dead giveaway that this is not an F3. And it is also not drop shut. It is decently, drop shut for what it really feels like a cheap knife, but it is not drop shut, whereas a Shirogorov, including the F3, is going to be drop shut like that. Whether it's on single row bearings or multi-row bearings, it's going to be, for the most part, very smooth and drop shutty. So you're also going to get that smooth roller sound. Another thing you can do to spot a fake is ask them to open and close it, and if you're familiar with the sounds of the knife, then you can sometimes discern whether it might be a fake. So here, listen to the knife, and then here, listen to the knife. So I don't know if you could hear it, but there's the way the bearings work in a Shirogorov is the rollers, and so you can hear the rollers sort of moving around in there, whereas here you could tell they were balls, essentially. Let's see if you can see it. It's either balls, the ball bearings or washers. I don't know if you can see it. Come on. Well, we're not going to be able to see it here on the camera. I don't know why it's not focusing, but that's some more things that you need to look out for a fake. Another thing to look out for is just shoddy fakes. So this is the, I believe this is a different model. So this is the Socom Elite, but I believe this is like the Socom Delta or something like that. Supposed to be a fake version of that knife. I believe the real version does not have a grind like this. It has, it doesn't have this lump here as far as the changing grinds. I believe the real one doesn't have quite the same pivot here. You know, the clip is very different on the real one. The back spacer is the wrong color. So, and the scales here you could tell are plastic. If you're going to be wanting to look for aluminum scales, if they look matte, you have an idea that they might be plastic as opposed to aluminum. So if they're supposed to be aluminum, ask for a close-up, and if you can see plastic milling lines or G10 milling lines, probably a fake. Now the one thing they did get right on this knife is it does have ball bearings that are quite drop shutty. Okay, I think that's about it for my comparison of clones to real knives. I'm going to go ahead and take out some of the real knives with some of the fakes, so you guys can get a look at them one last time. Oh, we've got one fake with a couple real ones. So fake, real, real, real. So hopefully this video has been informative. I've sort of been working through it with you, making sure I hit all the spots. If you have any questions on how to spot a fake, or you know where you should be shopping for knives, go ahead and hit me in the comments down below, and go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get all my content. I'm constantly doing giveaways on the channel. Really appreciate it if you could help support the channel in that way. Thanks so much.